Alright, greetings and welcome to Old Drunken Discography. This is fucking weird because Joe usually does this part. Screw you, Joe. Uh, I am Jason. With me, he's different in a different way. Tim.
What's happening, everybody?
He passed the lie detector test. Will.
Ah,
And Garrett, the human death dance.
How's it going?
Um,
beautiful.
Today we're doing Sage Francis. We don't have any kind of script. We're just gonna go off the cuff. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that other crap Joe usually says. Check out the Patreon.
Smash that button, yo, as the
Right?
kids say.
Yeah.
And,
Use your thumb or something.
yeah, hit that bell, something. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Ed's always talking
You
about the bell.
gotta hit
Stick
that
a
bell to
bell up
get
your thumb.
notifications to your phone, your email, your central nervous system, all of those things.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Your Fitbit.
Tim is going to
Yes.
be. He's got suckered into being on this show like almost every week now. So
Looking forward to it.
Will is going to be a special guest like whenever we do somebody cool.
Or
And
whenever you need me. Honestly, it's
yeah, I mean,
fine.
the more the
It's summer
merrier.
vacation, so I don't have a whole lot planned.
That's good because that's when Ed took off. We the Ed tracker. We lost Ed. I don't know where he's at now. It's
And we'll
posted
throw in
back.
that Ed will be coming back at some point.
Yep.
Last I heard, he was in space repairing the Hubble telescope.
Yeah,
Oh
I just
Lord.
saw him a little while ago.
Okay.
We had a
Okay.
rendezvous at the space station, and he said something about having a live acoustic show on Mars or something. I don't know. It was pretty cool.
Is that what your little alien dude? He's out there looking for Ed.
Yeah. He's also I think he might be a little special because he doesn't do much other than just kind of float there. But it's okay. Different strokes, different folks.
And then we also have Garrett with us, who is a complete random. We don't know him. He just showed up. No,
Welcome.
I found him on the Facebook, Sage Francis. We figured we'd get an expert in here to guide our old asses through this. So
We'll see about
appreciate
that.
it.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for having me. Welcome to share some background, share some insight, and help to contribute wherever I can. So thanks for inviting me.
Fantastic.
So I guess, Will, how did you get into Sage? Or what's your history with
Hmm.
Sage?
So a lot of my friends, my metal hardcore friends, for some reason around 2003, 2004, they got really into Atmosphere and all of the Rhyme Sayers kids, and that's how I was introduced to Sage Francis because I think he guested on a couple tracks on one of the records we were listening to, and I dug it, man. He's very anti-materialist, very deep and introspective, and also kind of has like a straight edge punk rock vibe going on with him too. It's pretty sweet. And also I like the production on the earlier stuff, like Personal Journals. It's kind of like a kind of reminded me of Jay Dilla a little bit, just super low key and instrumental and melodic and nice. And that's about it. That's I kind of stopped listening after A Healthy Distrust because I kind of just stopped listening to a lot of things at that point. But he's super rad. I'd like him. He's good.
All right. I guess what about you, Tim? What's your history with Sage?
My history started about last week ago when I heard of him for the first time, seeing the schedule for this. Um, yeah, like Will, I stopped listening to a lot of stuff a long time ago, and the early 2000s when these started coming out, I was not connected to anything like electronic, we'll say. Like it was very analog all the time. So just skipped out, and went my own little path. And so, yeah, I heard all five of these for the first time, blind, fresh, uh, no real context. So it's going to be fun.
That'll be interesting. All right. What about you, Garrett?
It's got to be quite a lot to take in. Five albums from him in a short period of time.
I've done this.
Done worse. All right. So I actually first heard of him. I'm thinking back to like the Sandbox Automatic days, which was a site that we used a lot for buying underground hip hop, and then on sites like Hip Hop Site, which I don't really believe that they function anymore. RapReviews.com. So a few of those places, and started to hear. And I purchased his first album. Like it was like a compilation. It was called "Still Sick, You're in Trouble." URINE. And I remember getting in the mail at college and opening it up, and it literally was a photocopied cover of the front and back, and the on the disc was written Sage Francis on like a permanent marker. And I'm thinking to myself, at that point in time, is the first time ever receiving something like that, and thinking like, oh, I wonder who they got to do this, and then come to find out that he's doing it all himself.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I got introduced in, and then I think it was one more version of those compilation albums, Sick of Waiting Tables, and then Personal Journals drops in 2002. So I was there really from the beginning stages, not so much on the artificial intelligence, right in like 99, 2000, but right after that, 2000, 2001. So I will say, I think that, as far as stopping listening, I will only say that when I started to have kids, I'd say that really kind of threw things off a little bit, because I was looking back and I'm like, oh, how did I not put as much time into like Copper Gone? And I think one of the main reasons for it, like my son was born in 2012, my daughter was born in 2014. I think I received those and listened to them a bit, but I couldn't have those extensive sessions like I did with the
Sure.
earlier ones. A million things are going on. You're like, this is great, but I got other stuff. So it was nice to revisit all of the catalog for preparation for this.
Awesome.
That's actually kind of lines up with my kids because I'm the same way. I didn't spend as much time with Copper Life because my kids are about that same age. So that's a fair point. I guess I got into them from there was some Epitaph comp. I can't remember which one it was, but it had Makeshift Patriot on it. And that song was just so damn good lyrically, like it just hit. And so then I went and checked out Personal Journals, and just bought them as they went.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in 2001, I think I was listening to a lot of like Queens of the Stone Age. I was mailing a lot of CDs that I was hand printing for the bands I was in. I was listening to a lot of like Secret Chiefs 3. And
Nice.
yeah, it was just way off the map. So
Yeah, I just in case Sage Francis would watch, I'd like to apologize for downloading Personal Journals and A Healthy Distrust on SoulSeek instead of buying them. I didn't know any better at the time, and I apologize, sir.
I got you, Sage. I got you.
There you go.
I listened to all 5 of them the last couple of days through official means. So he got
Yeah,
a hundredth
yeah.
of a penny from me. Thank you.
Yeah, Spotify gave him, some change today.
Yeah.
From us. Yeah.
I actually
It's
just
all
found
about them clicks, though.
Yeah, right. It's nice to get the clicks. I actually just found a Makeshift Patriot T-shirt that I got from the first concert I went to from him, and he had signed the back of it. "Don't wave your rights with your flags, Sage 2002." So I was like, I found it in one of the drawers downstairs. I'd never worn it, and then I just put it on, and I'm like, wow, this is way too tight. So I'm not wearing that shirt.
Yeah, there's a lot of band shirts I can't wear anymore.
Can't wear it anymore.
I've upgraded to large. Let's just put it that way.
All right, so I guess we'll start. Let's start with Garrett, since you're the special guest. What is your number 5?
Okay, so do you want me to explain a little bit about why it's number 5?
Yeah, whatever you
Okay.
want to.
Yeah.
So
So
give us your thoughts on your number 5.
Yeah, so number 5 for me was Life. And I know we're gonna do songs at some point in time. But this is a little bit on the shorter side for him. I think there was 12 tracks on the album. Some great songs. Little Houdini stands out. Best of Times stands out. But for me, it's still good. It's like one of those things where, like, even if it's number 5, it's still in my top 100 albums of all time. So all 5 of his are in my top 100. But it just was on the shorter side. Some of the songs for me, like London Bridge, like it just for me, it's not impacting me, affecting me like some of the other songs on there. So while I did like the album, and there's definitely shining moments on it, for me, from a fully consistent body of work, that was the one that I picked to be at the 5th spot.
All right. What about you, Will? I'll just go up.
Now, I don't know if I'm going to cause a commotion with this, but I got to put Human the Death Dance at number 5 for me. It just, like, I hadn't heard Human Life or Copper Gone until last week. And in comparison to those two records, like, it just feels like he's going through the motions making the record. Like, there's none of the songs really jumped out to me in a way that like some of the songs on Life did. Because even if they weren't my favorite songs, they still were memorable in a way. And I can't think of a whole lot on that record that really stuck out to me. That's the only reason, honestly, because they're all good. It just didn't. It felt mid in comparison to the other four for some reason.
All right, that's a hot take for me, but I don't know about the general fan base.
Yeah, we'll see as the episode goes on where these land. It'll be really interesting to see with all of our different, experiences.
Background.
Yeah, and backgrounds here. It'll be really interesting to see where all this lands.
What about you, Tim?
What about you, Tim?
My number 5 is going to be Life as well. And I really liked it musically. I thought every song had something musically really interesting going on. I really liked the mix, the production with the analog and samples. Like, it was a really good mix. But almost every song, like the vocals kind of killed it for me. They're not bad. They did not fit the music in a way that made sense to me, I guess. Like, I heard like slam poetry. It reminded me a lot of like an old Tom Waits album even, or just real spoken wordy and then they were also trying to do like hooks and choruses, but vocally they didn't work for me, but musically it really did. So,
all right. See, I'm going Life too, but for the exact opposite of you said. I didn't really care for the music. I like the lyrics.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, I can tell it's definitely like it's probably a very personal album.
Oh yeah.
And very concepty. So that's the hard part sometimes too, is like there's a lot of like I guess going off the grid, which I love. It's like that there's a great way to look at it where you're like, you shouldn't just conform to the norm. You should do something different. You should experiment. For me, some of the experiments sometimes you're like, okay, but are you still making stuff that I really like to hear and has the replay value? And in some cases, I'm when I'm looking at the track list or looking as I'm walking through it, you're kind of like, okay, the Poltergeist, like Slow Man was cool, but how much replay? I did really like I Was Zero. I like that. I could listen to that a lot. I love the flow that he has on there as well. But just a little bit inconsistent for me, but still made my top 100. So still a really good album that I enjoy. It just doesn't have that full end-to-end playthrough for me.
Yeah,
I do think Poltergeist is one of the best song titles.
For sure.
That's great.
Like I like Three Sheets to the Wind. I Was Zero. The Best of Times is an amazing song.
That's like an epic song, right?
Yeah, that one is amazing.
I think that song is why it's not number 5 for me, is because The Best of Times was like so good that it made me, and it was at the end of the record, so I was like, yeah, okay, that's perfect.
Yeah, that. Shoot, we might have some crossover on the next video then. All right, I guess we'll go. How does Joe do this? He just moves to the next person.
Yeah, he just alternates, I think.
All right, I guess we'll go Will.
Okay. Well, my number 4 would be Life. The reason why I do agree with you, Tim, that music, it seems more based on the music than it is on the lyrics. Like, while I was listening to it, normally when I listen to hip hop or rap, the first thing I pay attention to is the vocals and the lyrics. But on this record, for some reason, the music the lyrics just kind of flowed into it, like it was just a part of it. But I also enjoyed the brevity of it. That's why I liked it more than Human. Is just shorter. Like nowadays, like I used to love long records, and nowadays I'm like, God, can we just get on with it?
I
Yeah.
got 20 minutes. Go.
But like I thought that the Human and Life are. It was a toss up between the two because Human, I thought the lyrics were killer. Like that was what my focus was, and on this one, the music was my focus. And it could have been a toss up 5 or 4 on either of them for me personally, but I had to put Human in 5 and Life in 4 just because it was shorter and it was also just a little bit more unique as far as the like. Because I mean, there's a couple songs on it that sound like Arcade Fire wrote them or something. Like it was really bizarre.
So how much do we think that's the Epitaph influence? Were they pushing anything on him?
Was he still an Epitaph for Life?
According to the Wikipedia, it looks like the middle 3 albums are all on Epitaph.
Okay, I didn't know that. I thought he left after Human, but
Oh, I didn't even know Healthy Distrust was on Epitaph. That's crazy.
yeah, that's how I got. That's how I found Makeshift Patriot.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah.
It was
yeah.
some Punkorama or whatever. Epitaph
It's funny, you
comes from.
guys know. I did the opposite. I would only know of Epitaph from him, and you guys discovered him from knowing Epitaph. So it's like the opposite.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I crossed out my eyes and signed to Epitaph.
Signed to Epitaph, right?
That's the beauty of it, though. You know, you
Right.
get cross pollination. You
Yeah.
get people introduced to other cultures that they might not be aware of or have been exposed to yet. And it's just a good melding of minds and ideas and, revolution.
Yeah, and what was good is like when he toured for it, he didn't take he wasn't like touring with Epitaph bands. Like he was playing with Buck 65 and Buddy Wakefield, who is amazing.
Yeah.
So like that's how we discovered other Strange Famous records.
You kind of touched on something too. I know we'll probably talk about this a little bit, and I'm not sure if there's a segment for just the kind of final thoughts about all the non-album stuff, but I think that's
But
another
feel free.
part for him that is kind of different and unique. Is we talked about spoken word, and you brought up Buddy Wakefield and some of those things you get put onto, and you're like, okay, there's more going on here than just someone who's just a rapper, and they can do. He did poetry slams and had success with them too, and so there's definitely that diversity that comes out, and that is obviously there's no vocal or there's no music in those cases, so you have to have your lyrics completely on point in order to win people over in that regard and do unique things, and he for sure has accomplished that with a lot of his spoken word pieces that are very intricate and unique.
Yeah, I like he put some of those in his albums too, like the Strange Famous Mullet.
Yeah, there is a version of that, I think, at a concert somewhere, and there's 2 versions on YouTube of it, but you have to go search it if you haven't heard it at one of those festivals. There's one where a guy's singing along to it the whole time, and it's super annoying, but there's one where he's not, and he calls out, and they have all the music. The DJ plays all the music of like NWA when he calls Dr. Dre out. It's outstanding. So I'd recommend to go check that out if you haven't heard it before.
That sounds pretty awesome.
All right, Tim, what is your number 4?
Okay, my number 4 is going to be Copper Gone. I liked it. I liked it a lot. As we get into the middle of the discography here, like I feel like Life was kind of the left field album, and it's either going to work for you or it's not. And then the rest of these, they got to fall in somewhere. And I feel like 2 of them were like, yeah, I think Will said it, kind of going through the motions a little bit. And I felt that Copper Gone, it was kind of like it was trying to go back to like the first stuff, but after I'm guessing the life experience that it kind of went into, it just felt kind of by the book in a way. The music was really good. Like the production on all these is really good. And what he is rapping about and what he's talking about and the way he does it and his way with words is fantastic throughout. Like he is dropping stuff left and right. And so it's a lot of fun. I just feel like he did it better on the other albums.
I want to say he took a hiatus because like Copper Gone came out of nowhere for me. Like I wasn't expecting it. Like he just because it was like, oh yeah, I'm on hiatus, so he kind of stopped paying attention. And then
Yeah,
it's like,
like almost like a
bam.
recluse in his house during that time period, and have a lot, which obviously comes out in a lot of the music. Um, but
Yeah. Okay.
really kind
Sure.
of off the grid and off talking. And you know, Will, you brought up Aesop, who also had a similar experience as well. And
Yeah.
it's like we could probably spend hours just dissecting the life of an artist and how there's a correlation maybe there between how talented people can be and then how that might affect them in their personal life as well. I mean, it seems to happen quite often for there to
Hmm.
be.
Well, and especially when you get a little bit of success and or notoriety, then more pressures come in, and
Mhm.
your focus isn't always necessarily on the art. And as the artist, that can send you into the tailspin.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
there's a lot of factors that'll do that. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's always interesting and fascinating to find out more. So.
Yeah. Creative burnout is a thing too, man, for sure.
Mhm.
Mhm.
All right. My number 4 is going to be Copper Gone as well. So this is where I'm going to say we don't know each other's picks.
That is correct. Yeah,
I'm the black sheep this time.
um,
someone's got to be.
Tim
No, it's
just
okay.
mailed it in. He
I
said,
accept
if
it.
Jason has the 5, just give me his 5 too. I've only had 5 days.
so yeah, that's what my note says. Now we're back to Sage because
Yeah.
like Tim said, this feels more like a Sage record. Grace, he's on, is so good. Cheat Code's another Sage talking shit song. He's really good at that. Teach me how to Dougie Kid. I'd rather know the knowledge. No, now go home and get your shine box. You got a couple shoes to polish. Dead Man's Float's one of my favorites off this one. We all float down here and wait for the riptide to sweep us away. Looking at you, Stephen King. We still want our retweet. I had to tie Stephen King into this video because we're after him on Twitter. Uh, Over Under reminds me of a Buck 65. The way he delivers that. I popped a lumberjack dead in his beard. Had a gold digger won by the end of the year. It just reminded me of how Buck sings. But I was going through my the record like while I was waiting for you guys, and this I saw it was like the music was written by Buck 65. I was like, holy shit, is that the one I put? I was like, no, I was like one song off. It was Make 'Em Purr. But Say Uncle was great. Make 'Em Purr, that second verse about his cat. I love when he sings about his cat. Yeah, the album's great. It's just I think I just haven't spent enough time with it. It just came out at a weird time, and I don't want to say I grew up with the others, but they were in my life a lot more prominent. I'll get to that. How my wife quotes a lot of crap off those records at random times. But yeah, I mean, I do love Copper Gone though. I think it's a great album. All right, so Garrett, what's your number 4?
Well, my number 4. So I will preface this by saying that if you would have asked me a week ago, my 5 albums would have been very different. Number 1 would not have been different, but
It happens every time with these episodes. It's
yeah,
funny.
it's weird because I literally thought that Human the Death Dance was my second favorite album, and in re-listening to all 5 together, I had to slide it down into 4. The and I don't want to give anything away for the next segment, but the main reason for it to be me thinking it was as high as it was is this contains 2 of my top 5 of favorite songs of his, and I will get into that a little bit later. But I think the problem for me, and that once again, what's make sure we clarify what problem is. Problem is still what my top 100 album, amazing
Right.
album.
Yeah.
It's just
Minor
that
complaint.
you had minor complaint, but you had to put these in order. So I think the only thing for me is once again when it comes to the flow, like you start off with Underground for Dummy or Growing Pains and Underground for Dummies and Civil Disobedience. But then I go through a little bit of a stretch with Got Up This Morning, Good Fashion, like it's slower, clickety clack, Midgets and Giants, Broccoli, like that whole stretch to me is a little tough. Um, High Step about football, I love that. That's great. Waterline's great, Blackout, White Knight, and then you end with like a tour de force, which we'll get into a little bit later. But when you really had to look at the full body of work, I think for me that there was some places in there where I still listen to all these 5 albums from start to finish with no problem. Don't have to skip any tracks. But for me, when it comes to my favorites, you're like, okay, it kind of went hot, a little bit less than hot, and then back to hot again.
You'll notice that too when every time we do these, it's like you in your mind you think an album is your favorite because some of your best songs come from that album. But then when you take it objectively as a whole in the catalog, you're like, that does happen. So
Yeah, I stopped short of actually assigning each track a music number out of 10 and a lyrics number out of 10. I'm like, all right, I'm taking this too far. I don't have to go that far.
I mean I tried to do that with Lagwagon and it just got because it was like every album's great. So I tried to use math.
Right, then you get into
like
the points. Like, is this a 9.9 or is it a 9.8?
Yeah, and then you have to second guess yourself. Like, oh wait, was this a 9 point? That one's a 9.8, but it's not as good as this one. So then you have to change everything.
Yeah.
All right, so Tim, you go first this time.
Okay, so the next two, I had to rank, obviously, but I think they're kind of interchangeable. I think the next two are both really good, and for my number 3, I'm going to go with Personal Journals. It sounds like I got a remastered version with some bonus tracks. I could see this being a lot better with just a little bit of some of the stuff trimmed off the end. We got to talk about My Name is Strange. Like, the band sounds great, but what's going on there? Is he like, I don't know. It's goofy. It's a goofy cover.
Great.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of background there. So he used to tour with that group, Artificial Intelligence, and I think some of his albums, and especially on the compilation albums, he would take snippets from like freestyles from radio stations, and he would take snippets from like movies and different things like that. So I think when it carried over to Personal Journals, that was a performance that they had done with Artificial Intelligence, and it's different.
And felt the whole thing was good for the album.
I think they put out like maybe just a very I think they had a couple tracks like Backpacker is one of them, but I don't think they ever had like a full official album. I think if anything it was a little bit of like a mixtape. So I think that he maybe repurposed some of that material like in the form of that.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool, and I could see where too, if like, especially if some of these are bonus tracks. But it feels like a first album. It feels very low budget, but again, the production on it's great. The beats are great. The rhymes are great. The ideas he's bringing to the table are great. It's good stuff.
It's funny you should say low budget because he got a $1 advance from Soul at Anticon to make the album, and he was living, I believe, in the couch in New York City when he was putting all of that together. So that's as low budget as you can possibly.
Well, and Anticon did what, like 3 albums? Like I kind of remember that label, and they were very short lived. So
yes, Soul. I'm not sure of how that all played out in the end, but I know that there were some battles there, the underground battles of between like LP and Soul, and obviously we know who won that one. So
yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'm gonna go with Personal Journals. I liked it, but again, we're getting better.
All right. So my number 3 is going to be Human the Death Dance, and I love this album. This is a great Sage album. My note says C-Joe intro long should be short and fun, not long and boring. That was some shade thrown at him for me having covered another artist that was horrible. But anyway, I love how Underground Dummies is just Sage's career with a lot of references.
We miss you, Joe.
If you've been following up to this point, like that song makes more sense. You can't kill me, motherfucker. You can't kill me, motherfucker. That's always fun. Civil obedience has another quote said often around here. Short-tempered mother, shut your mouth. My wife says that all the time. Got Up This Morning is great. I love Clickety Clack. I think I remember him playing this one live. I think he played that one the one time I saw him. Uh, Midgets and Giants, another Sage shit talking song. Broccoli Break is weird, but
Yeah.
But amusing. It's amusing.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's funny just because it's Sage. But I love High Step and the throwback to Different. Waterline hits hard. Call Me Francois. The music sound. Yeah, the music of this one sounded so familiar, like something from my childhood, like an '80s movie or something, but I could not place it.
Have you ever looked it up? Like I don't know, but I kind of have a similar feeling to you. Like yeah, I don't know why. It just had that familiarity component to it that
Yeah, I've
I
never
don't know
looked it
where that
up.
came from.
It sounds like something from the '80s, though. The TV show or a movie.
Let me
Which one is
Google that
this?
for you. Call Me
Uh,
Francois.
yeah, Call Me Francois.
Oh, Francois. Okay.
We'll look up who
Mhm.
sampled right now. See if we can find it.
Give it the goog. Hoof Prints in the Sand came out 13 years before COVID. Just saying.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's it.
Well, it's not like we didn't know that was coming, but that's another story.
Yeah, that's such a great song.
Mm.
All right, Garrett, you're number 3.
My number 3 is Copper Gone. And I will say, I know I might have mentioned before, just when we were getting just intros and getting started, that just at a point in time in my life with having my second child at 2014, I think I got the album. I know I got the album. I have the T-shirt on right now that came with the album. I probably got to play it on my way to the grocery store and maybe daycare. And, some of these albums you really want to vibe into, and it just wasn't in the cards back then.
Uh-oh.
So it was but as listened to it a bit throughout the years, but in just the past week of sort of reconnecting in with it, realize I think the consistency component is just really something that we really second to none in that regard of really one great track after the next. So as I'm even listening to the ones that they don't have to all sound the same, you wouldn't want that on a full album, but even you have a song like Wanna Get Busy or Make 'Em Purr, that's a good interlude to in between some of the faster paced songs, and then really ends on a really hard note with Maintenance Required. And so push through the pain with what the flame does not consume consumes the flame, and like some of that perfect like ending and just really tied and wrapped it up on such a strong note. So Copper Gon's my number 3.
All right, why'd you raise your
Good.
hand, Will? What was that?
Because I just got a notification saying that your call ends in 9 minutes. Free group calls have a limit of 1 hour.
Yeah, I think we all got that notification.
Yeah.
Okay. I just
Oh
wasn't sure. It
Lord.
just freaked me out, man. I was like, oh,
We just
no.
didn't want to interrupt Garrett because we can edit all that in, and
Oh.
that was good.
It's my first podcast. I apologize.
It's all good.
No, it's the first time we're using Google, so I didn't know
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a time limit.
So does someone else have to start one up then, and maybe see if we can knock it out in another hour?
That's an idea. That's a
Uh,
real good idea.
I would assume you could just send another link out with another
yeah, I'm assuming I can
free
just start
thing
a
or
new
whatever.
one.
We might as well just do it now, right? Before, or wait, why don't? Well, it's up to you guys.
Yeah, if you can get your last one in, Will, in
Yeah.
that time frame, then it'll be
Number
easier to
number
cut.
3 is Copper Gone. I really love the song Cheat Code a lot. That was super like just kind of just different for the vibe of everything else I've heard from him. And then it kind of felt like it put together the best elements from Human, the best elements from Life, and put it all together in one package. And I just felt like it was a good completion of the circle kind of record. It just felt like a more solid production altogether, all around.
Oh yeah, the
And super
record
good
sounds
lyrics.
great. Like
Yeah,
the
it just
album
sounds
sounds
amazing.
great.
And that's it. That's all I had to add on that one.
All right, my number 2
Cool.
is Personal Journals. Again, I love this record. I mentioned Makeshift already. I bought this album right after, and I rolled my eyes when I first bought it. I rolled my eyes at the track list because like the first song is called Crack Pipes, and I'm like, did I make a mistake? Was Makeshift Patriot just a one-off like sign of brilliance, and this is just going to be another normal, gang banging crack pipe hip hop record that seems to be in the mainstream a lot? But boy, was I wrong, because Crack Pipes just blew me away. I was hooked from then on. Like that was it. It went in a completely different direction than I was expecting. Different again. This is a quote
And
my
in a good
wife.
way.
Yeah, in a good way. My wife quotes this one all the time. She said, "If you can't beat them, join them. Then hurt the team by beating yourself. You're different."
Yourself.
She says that all the damn time. Uh, I love the background part. It was like, ooh, ah. It just cracks me up. Personal Journalist is so good. The Horns and Inherited Scars. Some deep shit about self harm. Uh, Climb Trees. I gotta throw this out there. Sage says Children of the Corn. Stephen King reference. Where's our retweet? Uh, this is another one of my wife quotes all the time. Yeah, if these walls could talk, they wouldn't shut the fuck up. You think she's a very angry person, but she's not. uh, Broken Wings is great. Me and You Are a Different Girl. We Don't Even Need Wings to Fly. Strange Famous Mullet Remover is good. You know, that was, I think we kind of talked about that earlier. I don't remember if that was before or after we started recording. Uh, Pictures of Silence. I sit, stare, zone out, think a lot, never sleep, create memories to remember, and then I forget to eat. That Shot Through the Heart ending. Some Bon Jovi. Hopeless. Slam poem. It's short. It's interesting. It kind of bleeds in black sweatshirt. My Name is Strange is a fun one to the tune of Bob Seger's Turn the Page about being on the road. But that closer, Runaways, is so fucking good. State is not an ocean, not an island, not a road. If I don't know where I'm come from, how do I know where to go? It's not where you're from, not where you're at. It's where you're going. I'm going home. It's an amazing closer. That's what, like, I was just hooked from Sage, like, from then on. I like the low budget sound of the record too. Like it works. All right, Garrett, you're number two.
All
This one's
right.
autographed.
So my number two, I thought was going to be number four, but turned into number two, and that is A Healthy Distrust. I think when I went back and just this past week, kind of went through track by track and listened to everything again, you're like, wow, I forgot how great this was. And it starts off super quick with the buzzkill, and gets into a little bit more of like a softer side on Sea Lion, but then Gun Joe and just where things are at with the state of the country and everything, and then getting into Escape Artist and all the different sleight of hands and magical tricks and different things along the way. And there's just really consistency. And I've listened to this so much that I thought that when I'm listening back, this is pre kids, and all I had to do was sit around and listen to music. You're like, oh my god, I've listened to this album 1,000 times. So it's like there's so many great moments on it. The voicemail bomb thread, a good little interlude and a good background story there, just with the guy and trying to understand exactly what some of those words are, especially when he's impersonating him on there, and he's like, you think, all the different components to that. So it's super fun. But it's not going to make my top five, but I've always loved Bridal, and it's something where you're listening and there's no hook. It's probably a minute and a half, 90 seconds, and it's just like, wow, like it just kind of hits you. And I've listened to that song alone so many different times and just been like mesmerized at like how it puts you into that world of someone who just got broken up with, and how it hurts and how it stings. And it's like you feel every bit of emotion in that song. And so this is my number two on here, and I could listen to this once again from start to finish on repeat. So, Healthy Distrust, and I think what do we have for the year on this? 2005.
Five. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the big difference in this and with some of the compilations at the time is we've now like gone full bore into war situation, and there's compilation albums or like freestyle or what do you call like not freestyle or mixtapes. So a lot of his mixtapes and stuff, you have some more of those, like the war theme is like here throughout and a lot of the different tracks as well, and the anti-war more than anything. And so that comes through and loud and clear and so political and touched upon so many of those subjects, and I thought he did it in a great way. So Healthy Distrust is my number two.
All right. All right, Will, what is your
Uh,
number 2?
Gonna go with personal journals. Just I remember when I first heard it, and like, because I had the same impression. I was like, oh, the first song's called Crack Pipes. That's interesting. And then I heard the song, and I was like, oh, well done, sir. Well done. Way to make that title mean something completely different than my brain was going to think. That was wonderful. And I also love the way that it just segues right into different. Like, I thought it was one whole song, and it was just an excellent introduction to Sage Francis as an artist. Just those two songs back to back, just slayed, man. Just totally killed it. And like, honestly, the piano bit on Broken Wings and just the vibe of some of these songs are just so pure and just wonderful. And it's obviously my number one is probably easily known by just looking at this now, but it's just as good. It's just got a different feeling for me than my number one, but it's so good. I love it so much.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too.
You guys heard the background story on Crack Pipes or no? It's on one of his live albums where he talks about being in the airport and they were trying to like seize his. He had cash and they were trying to take his cash, and they were like, he's like, no, I'm an artist, I'm just traveling, whatever. And they like, if we have any reason to suspect that this was drug money, we're gonna take this. And he shows them the albums and they go, hey, buddy, Danny, get over here, look at this album. First song's called Crack Pipes, and like I'd love to believe that that was just true, but it's a great like interlude on one of his live shows to kind of like say it. So I think I forget what Dead Poet it might have been in one of his live albums. So he goes through the story of it. It's pretty great though.
That's amazing.
That's great. I mean, it's true, because the first thing I thought of was like, okay, I fucked up. But then it plays, and you're like, oh, I did not see it go in that direction.
Yeah, super great.
All right, Tim, what's your number 2?
Okay, my number 2 is Human the Death Dance. As I said before, number 3. These two are pretty equal. They're both great. I just felt I felt this one overall had better songs. Just the production's a little better. Obviously, there's more money behind it and whatnot. But just the flow of it and like, yeah, Broccoli Break is goofy, but it's right in the middle, so you get like a nice natural A side, B side, which I love when people subliminally do that on digital releases. And yeah, like the last 4 or 5 songs are just all incredible songs. And again, throughout the whole thing, like real interesting musical compositions, real interesting beats, samples. So much of what was going on in 2007, this is the antithesis to, and in hip hop. And I love this. This is just, it was great. It was really good. Clickety clack, yeah. I mean, you guys have gone over these. I liked Underground for Dummies. I liked Going Back to Rehab. Good Fashion. There's like all kinds of cool stuff on here.
Yeah, I did. To me, the top 3 are just phenomenal for me. All right, I guess we rotate back around to Garrett. What's your number
Well,
one?
it probably makes sense because you guys can have like maybe a 3-way conversation on because it's all the same album. It looks like for you guys, but
Oh yeah, it does.
yeah, which is all good. So I'll just say, this album comes out. I'm 20 years old. I'm in college. Up until this point, being a diehard hip hop fan, I went through, West Coast 92, 93, Snoop Dogg, then Illmatic and the whole East Coast vibe. Then 94 through 96 in hip hop is insane how many amazing albums came out in that 3-year period of time. Like almost will never be, I could promise you it'll never be repeated in hip hop at least ever again, 94 through 96. So that's all I know and that's all I listen to. And then all of a sudden in 1998, we get like Talib Kweli and Mos Def Black Star.
Yes.
And that throws me for like a complete loop. because I'm like, what are these guys, these conscious rappers? I'm like, what's happening here? And they can make really good sounding music, and it's incredible, but they don't have to be talking about drugs, guns, violence, and all these other things that I was just so accustomed to. It was just second nature. And I get why a lot of those artists did that, and I love those artists to this day. So that's, all of a sudden 98, and I'm like, okay, this album comes out, and I am just completely for it, because I had never heard another artist get so, no pun intended, personal with the stories. And you're kind of like, is he talking about his sister cutting herself up? Like, what is it? He's talking about his dad dying, or dad leaving the family, and he's in the hospital. And I just was like, almost like you had to listen to that album on a rainy day and take it in, and just be like, step back from it in like pure amazement. And so we'll get into like favorite songs and whatnot, but for me, just because of where I was at that point in time, and because it was such a drastic change from everything I had known that had to be the case for a quintessential hip hop album, that it'll always probably be my number one for the rest of my life. So it's my favorite album of all time out of any album for anybody is this.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Nice.
yeah, so I mean, it's
We picked the right
just
person.
picked me.
Yeah.
So it just sticks with me because of how much it came along with it, and kind of the culmination of a lot of different things. And a lot of other artists I've got into or did a lot of that for me, but probably not just so much as this one. So I think this will ever be my favorite. So, like a lot of things, but we'll talk about some of the songs probably coming up in the next segment as well.
Absolutely.
All right. I guess I'll just go ahead and throw this down here. We'll just have a group
So
discussion.
hey guys, a healthy distrust, huh?
So if I can piggyback off Garrett was saying there for a second, though, like throughout all of these albums, I really got a strong vibe. This guy grew up with Eric B. and Rakim. He grew up with Public Enemy. He grew up with, NWA and Ice Cube. Those first couple Ice Cube solo albums are like, it's real. It's storytelling, even like Slick Rick, like real just old school guys that weren't
Public
just all about the
Enemy
party, but really wanted to make you think. And and Sage Francis absolutely falls in line in that lineage and did a great job with all of these. Yeah. But yeah, and I think that, obviously we're going to start talking about a healthy distrust here. And I think for the time it came out, and what was going on in the world, you're brand new you're the first hip hop artist to ever sign to an independent punk rock label ever. You're going to have to come out swinging a little bit to get people's attention. And the production on this album is fantastic. Again, a nice healthy mix of real instruments and samples. I love that.
I think this is his most accessible album too.
Mm-hmm. I also think it's his most focused album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is just like the perfect culmination of everything you want as an artist coming together, and it came together. And it's let me get to the page here. Yeah, but like it starts off so strong, and then it just never really lets up.
Yeah. Like for me,
every song on here was great.
Like I remember, because all right, so the Iraq War started 2003.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was the first record I heard that like really kind of solidified some sort of opposition culturally, musically at least, in a way that was effective, I should say. Like,
well, and was it Epitaph that put out that Rock Against Bush compilation?
Oh, no, that was Fat.
No.
That was
Fat, okay.
Fat Wreck, yeah. But I mean, for me, it's like some of his other work, you can hear a rock influence, like musically at least. But on this one, it sounded like a hip hop record, but it had a rock vibe to it.
Yeah.
Like there's some guitars on there and stuff, but it's very much aggro. It's just stupendous, man. I don't use that word often, but it is stupendous.
Even the Sun versus Moon on here, I've referenced that before, and I've actually referenced that in like a Sun versus Moon DJ battle breakdowns, and like it's just such a different concept, but it works, like, and it's like you're kind of hooking on like, oh my god, these guys are battling each other, like it's kind of like a a weird concept, but then when you start listening to it, you're like, this is really creative, and it's a song you could put on and just play, and it's actually, you don't have to like study every bit of it to enjoy the song.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like Dance Monkey. Dance
Hillary
Monkey.
got sucked into Sun versus Moon for like weeks. He was just like, "This is the greatest song I've ever heard." But that's Hillary. He gets stuck on something, and yeah, Dance Monkey
I
was
mean, you could
great.
get stuck on worse, for sure.
Um, I'll ride this horse till it bucks me off is another, and I'm forced to shoot it down is another quote my wife says all the time. Um, the whole album is it's phenomenal. There's not a skippable song on it. I mean,
Yeah, I
there's
was
really not a skippable song on it.
Did you guys have the same feeling to Bridal that I did? Like, did you guys enjoy that song?
Oh yeah, I loved it. It's my number 6. Spoiler alert.
My note
Uh,
says Bridal. I know I sound like a broken record, but damn, this one is so good.
yeah,
Like, it is very. I don't know how. If he would have put in like some more choruses, stretched it out, like that would have been a huge single on the radio.
yeah, because the wordplay in it was really good.
Right.
Same
Yeah,
with Sea Lion.
really
Like
good.
he could have been massive, I think, with Sea Lion just on the
Dude,
radio.
that song, I love it so much, and it's just so 2005 to have Will Oldham on a hip hop record. But like at the same time, apparently, like I was doing some research on it because I've never really looked it up. But apparently, there was supposed to be another verse on that song with Saul Williams on it.
Oh wow.
Imagine how freaking crazy that would be. That would be nuts. So good.
In the topic, I know I'm going back to Bridal again, but like the top, that's what makes these. It's a big debate in all of music, right? When you take a concept that's already been done 1,000 times over, but you can make a breakup song, but make it something where you still are intrigued to hear what's going on. I mean, we could debate about hip hop doing that, and because I have a lot of like battles with myself about new music coming out, and you're like, we're still talking about drugs, and we're still talking about how much money you have and how many cars you have. You're like, how could that topic just not be played out completely? But there's creative people sometimes that can still do it in innovative ways, and it's like same thing with the breakup song. You'd think you have heard all of it, but there's just a different spin with a different music melody with it, and it works in that time. So you got to be, yeah, if you're going to redo something, the topic matter, you have to do it creative, or else it's just going to sound very bland.
Oh yeah. Lie Detector Test is another one like that. That could have been a huge single. Like it's just so.
hmm
I don't want to
So
say
when you say could have
poppy.
been, what do you mean by, what do you think, like, what do you mean by could have been? Like,
Yeah,
just if there was different promotion or different, like,
Well,
radio
like if he
play.
would have, like, if he was on a major label and they
yeah.
put a video out, and the old days in the '90s, and on the radio, I think the masses could have kind of like they did with Everlast, which screw Everlast, but like Sage could have been huge if he wanted to. I think with this album.
Yeah, I have this debate all the time with myself because I would have been so mad if he blew up to like a national
Yeah, I
mainstream,
don't.
like,
Yeah, I don't think he
but at the
would.
same time, he deserves to be. That's my conundrum that I have with myself of like, how do more people not appreciate the greatness? But then at the same time, I know like the day that someone came into a school and they had, hi, my name is Eminem, and like a girl that was a freshman and I was a senior, I was like, I can't believe this, because I knew him from the underground scene. And I was like, my worlds were like colliding, and I'm like, this is so frustrating that every girl's singing this stupid song. And it was just like, it was a dilemma for me. But even there, I'd appreciate that how much skill he had as a rapper from the talent level.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the dilemma that everybody faces as their musical tastes and knowledge kind of expands as you enter into your 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know for myself specifically, and a lot of my friends, the stuff you listen to when you first get into music and high school, it doesn't always hold up. And it can have a special place in your heart or whatever, because it might take you back to 5th grade. But it might not be good. And it might not have been good in 5th grade either, because you didn't know what was good in 5th
Hey
grade.
man,
Yeah.
that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coming out of their shells, it holds up.
I,
Hip
do I
hop
have
array.
it right here?
Do you have the VHS, man? For real?
No, I have the cassette tape.
Oh, okay.
Oh
Okay.
wow, Cowboy
I
had
still have-
found that in a box recently and had a really good laugh about it and listened to it. And it actually, like, I never taped over it or anything. It's actually the
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 OD.
coming out of our shells cassette tape from Pizza Hut.
Huh.
And clearly, like, yeah, it's terrible, but I love it because it's nostalgic
Yeah.
for me, you know?
It's like Mr. T, be somebody or be somebody's fool. It's not great, but it's
Oh,
lovely.
yes, it is. That
I use my kids as like a little bit of like a litmus test. You put on like Baby Got Back. Like, is this doing anything for you? Like, do you just kind of like, do you love it? Do you hate it? Like, it's because I loved it, and it was I was 9 years
Sure.
old. So
Yeah, I just for one last note on Healthy Distrust is that it ends with one rebel propping another rebel and Johnny Cash, and I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, Ja didn't kill Johnny.
Yeah, man, it's good.
Slow down Gandhi. I'll talk
Yeah, oh,
about
that
that.
song's so good.
I'll
Like
talk about that in the next video.
bridle to slow down to Jaw didn't. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
killer,
Yeah.
killer.
All right, well, final thoughts on Sage. Anybody got some final thoughts?
I wish he put out something new.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
seems
in
it
year.
seems
family
like it's
life
happening.
now.
Yeah,
I know he's getting back on tour.
Yeah, he's doing
good.
some
You know,
things.
I just had this dilemma maybe like 3-4 weeks ago, and wondering if when you're at the point of like where your life is going well, and this could be for every artist, right? You wonder if you could recreate some of that pain and some of the hardships and everything that comes out in all these types of albums. And when you are going through good times, you just won't. It might be that type of thing where it's harder to make things that are so heartfelt and touching and motivating and whatnot. Because I know he's done a lot, but I don't know. We probably won't talk about it with B Dolan and some of the stuff. And there's some fun stuff going on there with those guys, with the Beardmen, Epic Beardmen. But some of this stuff is what I mean. That's the reason I like drama movies more than everything, right? Because it's so moving and touching. And I think a lot when you look at these 5 albums across the board, you see a lot of that captured in there. And I couldn't even imagine put myself in your spot, Tim, where like taking it all in a week's period of time. But I would never shy away from getting another album. I would just be probably 10 years apart at that point from Copper Gone in 2014. So I'd be intrigued to know how it would all sort of come together and what the sort of vibe and theme would be for an album like that.
Well, I can say for myself, and probably for you guys too, because we're all about the same age, the midlife crisis thing, the existential angst. I think Sage Francis could make a killer record based on just existential angst, man. Just it would be awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, he's got kids now. I mean, he could do like dad hip hop pretty well. I think he'd pull it off.
Yeah, my son's not. He's like, I think I can beat you up. I'm like, you don't understand how much rage I have going through my body. Anytime you want to step up, just let me know. Oh.
Well put.
I think my last little final comment here is going to be that we need more hip hop artists with this punk rock spirit that actually gets you to think about things and look at things that you're not necessarily exposed to, and staying away from the cliches, like Garrett was saying. If you do something over and over again and talk about how much money you have and how you're the one running the game and how nobody else can touch you, it's like, well, okay.
It's like a lot of my students love YoungBoy. Like they just love YoungBoy. It's the only rapper that's ever existed as far as they're concerned. And I'm just like, yeah, I heard this 30 years ago. It's the same stuff. It's just over and over again. Except this time it's got auto-tune on it and better beats, I guess. But
I think all genres kind of go through that. You got your pop punk where you got.
Yeah.
I always wonder whether or not and this is maybe like an unanswerable question, but I just wonder if he's happy with the niche that he found and got himself into, because as someone who to the point you brought up, idolizing like Public Enemy and a lot of those hip hop artists, he probably recognized that like at some point in maybe mid 90s or early 90s, or he wanted to probably be a huge hip hop artist. and I think you realize that like sometimes his fan base is so off the beaten path for what your typical hip hop fan would be, and I always kind of wondered if like he liked that, or if it was kind of like he wishes that he had more of the attention of your hip hop community across the board. Maybe it's just something that you won't be able to answer, but a lot of body of work. The other thing I was going to mention, a lot of stuff. We are obviously not talking about Hope here from an album standpoint because it was a non-profits album, and where there's so many different compilations and of those mixtapes and things like that. So that could probably be another episode into itself.
Yeah, we tried to keep this one.
It's weird though. There's so many good songs on those albums, and I know we're gonna stick to it. You're like, oh my god! If you just took a collection of your favorite songs off the compilations, you have a masterpiece. like, so it's tough.
Yeah, it's good stuff though.
All right, well, I guess that we'll wrap that one up. We did final thoughts. Yeah, I mean, I don't generally listen to hip hop. There's a few artists that I will, and Sage is like at the top of that list. So I'm not gonna go.
I don't listen to much either. I certainly I like the old school stuff, and then I have the artists that I like, and this one made the list. Like I will be revisiting all 5 of these and checking out, the bonus stuff because this is great stuff.
Yeah, the Sick of series is pretty good. There's a lot of good stuff on the.
Yeah, I saw that on Spotify. He's got 2 of his earliest records that before Personal Journals on there, and I didn't listen to those, and now I'm going to listen to them again.
Yeah, some of the songs were redone, and I think without being too deep into the digital age at that point in time. So Sickly Business took a lot of those songs off of the early ones and actually remastered them because they were really bad. Some of them are really bad, but so if you listen to Sickly Business, you've covered a lot of what was on those 2,
right?
But it's still worthwhile to go back and take a peek.
Okay, cool. I as somebody that waited tables for 20 plus years, Sick of Waiting Tables sounds right up my alley.
All right, well, I guess that'll be it for this one. Thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. Hit that like, subscribe, bell, crap, whatever Joe says. We're not going to say tell Sage Francis about O.D.D.
Yeah, and Sage Francis needs to write in and let us know how he feels about his work.
Give us your
his
ranking, Sage.
Yeah, rank your own records. That would be great.
We'd love to have you on the show.
and let Stephen King know, too.
Yeah, Sage, if you got any clout with Stephen King, let him know O.D.D. is still waiting for their retweet. So, one day. It'll get Joe. Save the show. Joe will come back if we get Stephen King to acknowledge us.
Oh, that would be the best.
He said that in that Atari's video, I think.
Yeah.
All right.